Her Excellency Noor bint Ali Alkhulaif to the stage, who is the Chief Executive of the Bahrain Economic Development Board and Minister of Sustainable Development, and Richard Teng, the Chief Executive for Binance. Please join me. Thank you so much. So, talent, every time I speak to anybody who runs a tech company or whose job it is to nurture a tech ecosystem, is always the biggest topic that comes up. The shortage of it, the competition for it, how to develop it, it literally is what the sector is made of. Your Excellency, could I start with you and ask you, we've heard throughout today already that human capital is one of the great strengths people see in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Could I ask you to tell me a little bit about your model for developing and kind of generating and attracting this sort of talent?
Thank you. So kind of you. Thank you so much. If I may, I think I just want to start actually first, if you allow me, Joshua, just to welcome everyone for Fintech Forward. It is a pleasure to have you all, to have people from the local ecosystem, the regional and the international as well. I hope you enjoy the next 2 days, and I want to thank definitely our partners, Economist, Impact, the Central Bank of Bahrain, Bahrain Fintech Bay, Teng Chief, and all of the banks as well here. It's nice to bring everyone together, and as I've been saying since the morning, it's exciting to see what comes out of this in terms of the partnerships that hopefully we'll see. I'm actually going to drop that mic because I can hear me blacking out, if that's okay, and I'm just going to.
Do we have a handheld? Ah.
Sorry for the disruption, but this is much easier. You're right, actually, and you said, lots of companies talk about talent these days. For us in Bahrain, talent has always been the thing we've been talking about for the longest time. But before I go into talent, if you allow me, and given I've just actually returned from New York, where I had the honor of witnessing His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince of Prime Minister, deliver Bahrain's statement to the UN General Assembly on behalf of His Majesty the King. And I just want to stop at a couple of things, if you allow me, that he's mentioned that are very, very relevant to Bahrain and the strengths of Bahrain. His Royal Highness affirmed that as we look to the future, we will spare no effort to provide citizens with opportunities to connect with the wider world, to compete, innovate, and succeed. He also underscored Bahrain's commitment to ensuring citizens are equipped with the skills necessary for self-development, both for the progress of their livelihoods, but also for the overall community. And lastly, His Royal Highness reiterated the transformative potential of emerging technologies such as AI, and how they will fundamentally reshape the world as we know it, and the importance of partnerships in order to really take advantage of that transformation. And really, if you look at just those 3 statements, and this is just an extract from the statement, and I encourage everyone to actually read it, it really, what it summarizes are the 3 key ingredients for us in order to ensure economic development, and that's to create opportunities, to equip the people to make sure that we can take advantage of those opportunities, and then lastly is the international cooperation. And this is what we've been doing throughout time, as you can go as far back as you'd like in history. Take the 30s, for example. Bahrain created the opportunity with the discovery of oil. We ensured that people are equipped, and we have now a legacy of Bahrainis that are trained in engineering, and also that resulted in a lot of international partnerships. If you look back about 20 years, when the huge push towards economic diversification happened in Bahrain, again, that economic diversification, the idea of looking at more than one key sector to drive economic growth, which is financial services, manufacturing, logistics, tourism, ICT, and all the other sectors that we look at, this is where Bahrain has created opportunities, is by ensuring that we look at that. And a lot of that is driven by the vision of our leadership. And to date, we have a very strong financial services sector. that's full of Bahraini talent, as well as international talent that is very welcomed in Bahrain. We have a very strong emerging tech sector, and it's very, very exciting for us, specifically at the Economic Development Board, to witness and be part of that transformation and seeing the demand build up for local software developers. And so there's definitely a lot of opportunities there. If we look at talent, specifically in Bahrain, I mean, education plays a big part, of course, and education has always been a priority for Bahrain since the formal education was first introduced in Bahrain. It was the first country in the region to introduce it. But we never stopped. We continue to invest in that education. And it's not just education and schooling, but it's also all the internships, all the skilling and the upskilling and the reskilling that is happening to ensure that we're always ahead. That's the advantage that we have. We have a leadership that's able, and as sometimes we joke, we have a leadership that can look into the future and then come back and tell us what we need to do. So we're lucky in that sense, and we definitely recognize where the future is. We actually also, with the talent, and we have an institution that's been fundamental to ensure that we have the right ecosystem and the right financing and funding to ensure people continue to be skilled and upskilled and reskilled, and that's the Labour Fund Teng Chief, which rechannels the fees paid by the private sector. It recycles it right back to the private sector in order to ensure that they are able to hire the right people and they're able to continue to develop their company. So for us, absolutely, I think talent is very, very important. And before I end, I'm very excited to be sitting next to Richard. I'm going to try and keep it very brief because I'd love to listen more from your experience in Bahrain. But
Thank you so much. Richard, I'd love to ask you exactly the same question from your quite different standpoint in this. You know, you're thinking about how to attract and develop the best talent from the point of view of running Binance, which is obviously quite different to how a government will think of it. What do you focus on? What's your model? We might need to hand the mic. If that.
Hello. So first of all, just let me congratulate Excellency on all the great work that Bahrain has done in terms of nurturing talent. Second of all, it's always great to be back in Bahrain. Hello, Bahrain. Hello to all the friends and supporters here. Thanks so much. It's always great to be back in this lovely country. I always enjoy my time here. But let me go down to the issue, right? So if I can just give you context on why we value talent so much and how do we nurture talent. If you think about it, we have 230 million customers. Our staff strength today is only about 5,400. So not a lot of people. This year alone, we onboarded 50 million new customers. So there's a lot of stress on having the right talent, creating the right talent. We always believe that if we have the best talent for our business, with the best execution, we will succeed, right? So what do you mean by talent? So for every industry, it's slightly different. For our industry, it's really people that really understand the Web3 space, the crypto AI space. So I have five very simple philosophies. Identify the talent that you need, recruit those talent, nurture those talent because they may not be ready. Even if they are the best talent, they may not be ready. Nurture those talent, deploy those talent in the right places because not all the right talents are in the right areas. You have to find what's the expertise in nurture them and retain those talents, right? So talent density is extremely important, and we are committed not only creating talent for ourselves, but creating talent for the entire Web3 ecosystem. So, I mean, if you look at it, Binance Academy is a free-to-air portal where you can learn everything at different levels, from beginner to expert level, on everything about blockchain, crypto, AI. And so far, about 27 million people have utilized that platform globally, which is great, right? And we work with many universities around the world, close to 200, working on their curriculum on Web3, crypto, blockchain space, right? Because if you think about future industry, AI together with blockchain will form the fundamental infrastructure of most of the economic blocks, economic sector, right? Be it supply chain, real estate, financial services, and the likes goes on. All of them will utilize the efficiency created by AI the efficiency created by blockchain, right? If you look at most of the people are already moving in that direction. So it is very critical for any countries and any companies in that regard that wants to gain a competitive advantage to invest very heavily to create the future talent pipeline for this space, right? Which is something that we are very passionate about. And even internally we do have a lot of interns and fresh talent coming to us, right? So we created what we call a Binance Accelerator. For fresh talent coming through us, they may not have all the knowledge and expertise, but we'll gear them up very quickly in the Web3 space, right? And some of our best talent that went through the organization and subsequently become very successful, either within the company or sometimes they leave us and join the industry, goes through that particular program that we have created within Binance.
Thank you very much. Now, as we can see on this stage, kind of development and maintenance of a talented workforce is itself, it's always a public-private partnership, right? It's both governments and private enterprises that need to work on this and need to work together. So could I ask you, Your Excellency, where do you see that point of kind of meeting being? Where do you see the balance between what should be done by the public sector and what should be done by private enterprises, and how do you work together?
Of course. I think I want to start by where actually Richard left off is companies, it's very important for companies to have the talent. And what we've done for Bahrain is we've bet on our people and we've invested on people so you don't have to bet on the success of your company once you come here. We want to ensure that we have the right talent for companies, as we say it, to come and plug and play. There is the right talent available, but also you're welcome to choose the talent, whether it's local or international. Partnerships for us is very, very important. We're an island country. On the trading routes for many, many thousands of years, partnerships beyond even our borders are very important. That's something also that Richard alluded to, and a lot of companies have found, especially post-COVID, there is no boundaries. You're not restricted by boundaries when you're looking for talent. And so for us, it's important to ensure that we look beyond even the local economy when it comes to identifying partnerships and bringing in partnerships into the country. Just maybe one thing on the partnerships and the wider context. It's exciting for us when we look at the economy at the GCC. So at the moment, the size of the economy at the GCC is just above 2 billion. It's looking to increase to about 3 by 2030, 6 by 2050. This shows you the potential of, in terms of the development and the growth that we're going to be witnessing over the coming years. In Bahrain, we've always identified ourselves as the service center for the region. We are the super connectors. We're your gateway to all of that potential. So how do we make sure that we make the most out of that? It's by ensuring that we continue to invest in our people, in our regulation, in the way we do business, to ensure that we continue to be business friendly. And we've seen a lot of examples of partnerships over many years, actually. I'll just maybe talk about recent ones when it comes to partnerships. One of the digital banks that we have setting up hopefully in Bahrain is the Singapore Digital Bank, and that's a partnership between an international company and local investors, and it was exciting for us to see that happening in Bahrain and for that to be facilitated in Bahrain. The partnerships that we build even with Binance, is with the AWS, with Citibank, that's all through having ongoing discussions and collaborative efforts to identify what companies need in order for that partnership to continue to succeed for the foreseeable future. So definitely, I think it's great for us to have those partnerships on the local, regional, and also the global level.
Thank you. And Richard, how do you see the most effective ways for private enterprises like yours to collaborate with governments on talent?
Well, it's extremely important, the public-private partnership, especially in underserved areas, right? So especially when you see gaps. And those form of partnerships, which can take several forms, are most effective. I'll just give you an example. So for example, in the blockchain space, in the crypto space, it tends to be still a male-dominated sector, right? Because, I mean, traditionally, technology has been male-dominated, which is why we get involved in a movement called Women in Crypto. And together with universities, we work with governments to fund that program. We fund scholarships into that program, right? A Web3 scholarship just for women. All right? Although in some parts of the world we fund more than our fair share, both men and women, but in many parts of the areas, we think that we need a greater representation, we need greater diversity, we need greater talent pool on that front. And those form of partnerships are extremely important to really impart new knowledge to bring talent pool into that space. I'll give you another example. Today, I think if you look at most of the focus are into sort of slightly university education in AI and blockchain, right? But it's very important to start earlier. So for example, you see kids in elementary school going through coding lessons now, right, globally. But I mean, if you want the children to learn to be savvy in financial planning, you start them young. You want them to be savvy about AI, blockchain, you start them younger, right? So again, that value curve will have to go from universities, but then we have to work our way downwards. And that's where private partnership will make a lot of sense, right? How do we work on curriculums that's suitable for different age group, for them to get much better appreciation, for them to harness all this technology, as well as acquire other lifelong important lessons in life, be it in whatever area, get them start at a much younger age.
Thank you very much. A final area I would love to get your thoughts on are competition, and a government and a financial institution face different areas of competition for this tech talent. Obviously, there's the question of, but for both, there's the question of retention. How do you make sure that the best people are staying with you? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think, and I knew you would want to ask Richard, so I think there's two different perspectives. There is the country perspective and the company's perspective in terms of retention. In terms of competition, we probably get that question a lot in terms of Bahrain competition in the GCC, and we always say, we don't look at it as competition. As I mentioned, the growth that is being seen in the region is exciting for everyone, and there is a place for everyone to benefit both directly and also indirectly. So a growth that happens in Saudi or the UAE definitely benefits Bahrain, because we're happy to export that talent as well. And for a lot of people, they're happy to relocate and be present. We are lucky in Bahrain that we have a labor market and people that are very dedicated and have a really good and high work ethic. When we speak to some of the companies that we are partnering with, so I'll just give the example of Citibank, for example. We know they enjoy very high retention rates in terms of the talent that they've recruited. But also another point that was mentioned is the diversification. And we're very happy to be able to be a country that has a higher average of female participation than even countries in the West and the rest of the world. So I think for Citi, for example, I believe the number is above 20% when it comes to female participation. That's very, very exciting. But also an important thing is, as Richard mentioned, sometimes you hire the talent, but they're not yet there. And so we ensure that companies continue to invest in their people, but also give them those tools for them to tap into through Temkeen or else, to ensure that if there is any certain upskilling that they need, an additional certificate that they require in order to retain their people, that tool is available to them. Whether they need to increase the salary, that tool is available to them. And Temkeen continues to reinvent themselves. I mean, yesterday they just announced a new set of programs as well to continue to support the people, because this is what we believe where the future is. So definitely, I think the retention is an important point.
Thank you. Richard, I'm going to hazard a guess that financial institutions are slightly less happy if their talent is exported to other institutions. How do you retain your most talented people?
Well, it's a multifaceted answer to that, right? Because you have to dissect what keeps a young talent, right? Because there's different stages of a career's life cycle, right? So for young talent, normally they look out for certain things, right? So they look out for personal growth, journey, career progression, upward mobility, whether they are part of a very dynamic, interesting team building new things, right? So those are what young talent tends to look out for, and you have to fulfill that. The more matured talents, the more senior as you rise, again, you look at, I mean, to most of them, again, this generalization, each person is going to be quite different, is whether hygiene factors, whether they're properly taken care of, whether they're motivated to do interesting stuff, right? What they're looking for is really impact of their work, right? How can they contribute to the company's goal, how they contribute to impact, how do they change certain things, right? And whatever they're doing, whether it has a significant change to whatever sector they are in, right? So again, that is a tricky question, it's intricate, it really varies from person to person, varies based on different parts of your career life cycle. So it's not an easy question to answer, but we just have to cater. We have to make sure that people are motivated. If we continue to do things that are impactful, if the company is growing, if they are part of a very talented, dynamic team, normally those are factors that get people continue to be very engaged with the organization to push forth with the agenda and mission.
Thank you so much. We could carry on talking about this all afternoon, but I'm sad to say we've run out of time. So all that remains is for me to say thank you so much for giving us your time and thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you so much.